Good evening, and evening it is. It's 10:30 at night. See our beautiful sunset out here in the Ross Sea, McMurdo Sound. I'm on Ross Island. That's where McMurdo Science Station is. And I'm going to show you about how compasses work. So here's my compass I brought from home. And there's a difference between magnetic north and geographical north. Geographical north is the North Pole, where all the lines of longitude meet. The magnetic South Pole is going to be where the magnetic pole lines up. And it just so happens that the magnetic South Pole right now isn't even on the continent of Antarctica. It's off of Antarctica.
How, Sway? Take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway.
Kanye.
I've been doing this more than you.
Doing what?
You ain't got.
And there's a thing called declination. That's the difference between the two, geographic and magnetic. Currently, it's about 140 degrees difference, which means that if your compass did work, it would lead you in almost the complete opposite direction. So I thought I'd show you this though. Here's my compass, and you can see that white needle is pointing down. Look at as I'm rotating around, that compass doesn't even spin. The needle stays the same. That white needle is dragging down on the bottom of the compass. So kind of fun to play with, but not real useful. I mean, you
gotta use a little critical thinking here, people. Now, it's supposed to be a magnetic South Pole. He is using a magnetic compass. So why can he not find it? Because it does not exist. Ask yourself, how was our ancestors navigating? They used a compass, because a compass represents a flat plane. Now he's going to use GPS, Global Position System. It doesn't stand for satellite. They created it to fit their narrative. Let's ask Google. Google, what is a magnetic compass?
Magnetic compass. A magnetic compass is a simple device which helps us to locate a place. It has a long needle. One end of the needle is marked N to represent the north direction. No matter where you are on Earth's surface, the needle of the magnetic compass will always point to the north direction. Thus, one can find all other directions in relation to north.
You could rotate it around and try to get that off of the bottom of the compass, but for the most part, not real useful. Now we have a GPS here. Show you my GPS. It has a compass on it, compass page. And the key thing you need to remember with the GPS is you got to be moving if you want to get the direction that you're going. So if you'll look at this, you can see we're headed about a southwest direction. And if you look out, you can see White Island and Black Island. And right between those is where the South Pole is. So as long as you're moving, the GPS compass can be reliable. We've used it out in the field on this trip. When we get dropped off by helicopters, we use GPS to know where we're going and how to navigate back and where we're going to get our samples from. If we have any special finds, then we'll mark them with GPS. If we find like seal mummies, dead seals that dry up, possibly hundreds of years old, we'll mark those with GPS, so we'll know where those are at. But there you go. Do compasses work in Antarctica? Now you know. And it just took 3 minutes. Enjoy the sunset.
What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis?
In order to free the conditioned mind, you must start with the very thing that has the mind in a state of condition, which is false information. Hi, my name is Elder Willis. Some of you might not believe me, but I am a guide and a guardian for the children of the Most High Power. I am here to guide you to wisdom and understanding. This information that I will be sharing with you today is not a secret, it's right in front of your eyes. The reason you cannot see it, it's because of false information, so you do not seek true information. You have been distracted. That's why Elder Willis and many others has been sent 10 years ahead of you with wisdom and understanding to get you up to speed. The Most High Power has given us a 10-year jump of wisdom and understanding so we may guide you and shield you from Sly Fox false information.
Do satellites exist or not? Well, let me answer that for you. It doesn't matter at this point, because just to have you engaging in that conversation you have been distracted to the real problem. Who cares if they exist or not? What we do know is someone or something is taking pictures from the sky, and why, and who are they looking for? These particular people, they are very unique individuals. They have the ability to see through the lesser magic. The earthly rulers, they have put a blanket, a world wide web over the world, but the creator's elite, they have wisdom, understanding and knowledge by the universal creator to expose the truth, and that is who they are looking for. These individuals are a threat to the awakening of the human race.
If Google had its own capability here, how much better would Google Maps be? And how much better would your traffic management and control system be if you were able to kind of employ this technology?
Yeah, absolutely. I interviewed one official, or rather a sort of senior executive at Sierra Nevada, which is the contractor that was the prime contractor for Gorgon Stair. And he was actually driving in DC while I was speaking to him. And obviously the traffic was incredibly bad. And I did a little background on this, and the technology can be used to identify choke points in real time. It can be used to gather data to create traffic models, to figure out how to best optimize the flow of traffic through a city, how to space and time your traffic lights, for example. But there's more to that. About a year before I started working on the book, I was riding my bike home from a bar in Brooklyn, and I witnessed a shooting. 4 people, it seems, shot a 19-year-old named Taekwon Hart in the gut. They disappeared into the night. I obviously didn't go chasing after them. I contacted the police the next day, and I was in touch with a detective to try and give the information that I had. And then I checked in a week or so later, and they were never able to solve that crime. Fortunately, the teenager survived, but it joined this list of thousands of unsolved crimes in New York City every year. Had this camera been watching that night, it would have been a very simple question of tracking. Whereas a satellite used to cost $500 million and cost enormous amounts of money and resources to launch into space, to launch into space.
If you've never seen one of these before, it plays a key role in your internet life. This is what carries your email, videos, and games all around the world. It's an undersea internet cable. It's being made right here in Kitakyushu, Japan, at NEC's OCC factory. OCC makes submarine cables, which carry virtually all internet data across oceans. The cables come in different varieties, including heavily armored ones, but they all start with bundles of optical fibers. The fibers are wrapped in layers for strength, starting with a steel tube, then steel wires and a copper tube, and finally a polyethylene sheath for water resistance. Enormous spinner machines and spools are needed to create the cables. When they're armored, the cables are wrapped in more steel wires and then asphalt and plastic strings. That makes them pretty tough.
Even though the single armor is just one layer, this is kind of difficult to bend.
Once manufacturing is complete, the cables are spooled into large tanks and then tested for water resistance and other parameters. The cable system includes large missile-shaped repeaters to boost the signal across the ocean. This 9,000 kilometer long cable is being created for the Trans-Pacific Faster Cable that's backed by Google.
It is a 6-fiber pair system. Each fiber pair will carry 100 wavelengths of 100 gigabits. So the total capacity will be around 60 terabits. That is equivalent to about 1,600 DVDs, which can be transmitted over the ocean in 1 second.
That there are around 1,000 satellites currently in operation around Earth. That there are around 1,000 satellites currently in operation around Earth. Each of these satellites has been put into a specific kind of orbit depending upon its mission. So how does a satellite stay in orbit? So how does a satellite stay in orbit? So how does a satellite stay in orbit? And why are satellites put in different kinds of orbits at different altitudes?
If you're trying to understand the global picture, what's going on in Asia, what's going on in Africa, you need to make those observations. And for that you need a polar orbiting spacecraft, which is an orbit that goes over the poles.
What affects the orbit of satellites?
The Sun-Earth distance changes as the Earth goes around the Sun. So small changes in the gravity field and small changes as the gravity of the Sun affects the spacecraft makes it push slightly out of its observing time orbit.
Constant falling is the thing where satellites are being constantly falling and then being carried out into space, swung around the Earth, and then brought back by gravity. And so this is one of the things that reasons why we believe in satellites and that it's possible. The other reason is because we believe that we live on a ball, and that ball is actually something that is like all the rest of the planets out there, or if you can call them planets. All of the round objects that we see in the sky, we feel like that's where we actually stay. But can I just bring you to reality of God's Word? Actually, God said in the scripture, he said that he was putting the sun and the moon in the sky so that the sun and the moon could warm the earth and then also tell us the times and the seasons in which we live. Now this is quite different because, you know, it makes the sun and the moon to be very close, and it shows us an entirely different kind of world in which the scientists have created for us. Now, if we're going to break out of the dream reality, we really have to come to terms with some of the things that they are actually telling us so we can open our eyes a little bit.
This is what carries your email, videos, and games all around the world. It's an undersea internet cable. It's being made right here in Kitakyushu, Japan, at NEC's OCC factory. OCC makes submarine cables, which carry virtually all internet data across oceans.
Now, here's another thing I want you to see, is that now that while they're telling you this, they also want you to believe that there are satellites up in the sky, and that all of our communication by our cell phones and all of the data that we receive on our cell phone is actually coming from satellite. It just is not rational to believe that, because if a satellite should actually, if the Earth was really round and the satellite should actually go on the opposite side of the Earth, then how are you going to maintain connection on your cell phone or your internet?
Orbit is an orbit around the equator where the satellite orbits at the same speed as the Earth. So it has the effect of staying in the same place all the time.
That there are around 1,000 satellites currently in operation around Earth.
Sometimes everyone isn't really everyone. Like when people say, everyone's on the internet. Because the truth is, for each person that can get online, there are two that can't. And when you look closer, that everyone looks even less like everyone. In some places, it's more like 1 in 1,000. In others, it's 1 in 10,000. And in some places, no one's online at all. But what if there was a way to light up the entire globe and finally make all the world's information accessible to all of the world's people? Well, even though today 1 in 3 kids can't get to a real secondary school, everyone could have secondary school come to them. In places where there aren't enough doctors, everyone could be helped by doctors in other places. Farmers everywhere could start using better weather data, so everyone could enjoy a bigger harvest. Because small businesses that are on the internet grow twice as fast, everyone could create new opportunities for everyone. But how do we bring affordable internet to everyone? Maybe finding an answer starts with looking somewhere new. Like up, and trying something different. Like balloons. Yep, that's right, balloons. Because it turns out that if you use balloons, it's faster and easier and cheaper to give everyone the internet than it is to give some people the internet. That's why we're giving it a try, and why there's hope that someday soon, everyone really will mean everyone.
This is what carries your email, videos, and games all around the world. It's an undersea internet cable. It's being made right here in Kitakyushu, Japan, at NEC's OCC factory. OCC makes submarine cables, which carry virtually all internet data across oceans.
Now, why are they lying to you? That's the big question. Why would they lie and tell you that we have satellites all over this world? Because they want you to believe that the earth is round, and they want you to believe that the earth has a gravitational pull, and they want you to believe that the earth is rotating around the sun, and they want you to believe that we're in a solar system. And the reason they want you to believe that is because it fits within the narrative of the Big Bang heliocentric model. And the Big Bang heliocentric model says basically this, that people came from nothing. They didn't come from God, they came from a big explosion, and that nothing created everything. And if you believe that, then you are lost, and you are blind to the fact that we have a creator, we have a God who created us for a specific purpose and for his glory. Now, this is why they want you to believe that we have satellites all over the world, when in reality, there are no satellites. Anyway, you let me know what you think about this. Like, subscribe, or don't.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.
What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about?
Another one.
What you talking about, Will?
Yes, this is a video that I actually recorded on the way to Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, flying out of Tampa, Florida. And I was just going through my phone and just looking at some old videos, and I came across this one, and I was shocked. You know, I said, wait a minute. I was actually going to a wedding, a friend of mine's wedding. And it was like one of my first time or my second time actually flying on a plane. You know, it's amazing and scary at the same time. But I was recording, you know, just looking like, man, look how high I'm up, freaking out. And I was just looking at how far I was away from the surface. And then I started taking pictures of the sky. And one of the shots, the sun came into view while I was just recording. I wasn't trying to take pictures of the sun. It just happened to get into view. But as I look back at it now, I noticed something very strange. It appears to be fire of some sort shooting from the sun. I ain't never seen that like it. And another thing, if anybody know about the creation story in Genesis, I think it's, chapter 1, 1 through 14, how it talks about the firmament and the sun and the stars. It's just me. It looks like the sun is just sitting in the sky, and you can actually see blue skies right behind the sun. Kind of reminds me, water above, water below. I mean, I don't know.
What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis?
I'm just playing. I do know. I just had to slide that joke in. But water above, water below. Trust your 5 God-given senses. That joker is sitting in the firmament. The firmament translates into Hebrew, the sky, the arc of the sky. Clearly see the sun is inside of the firmament. Just look at the blue skies behind it. Water above, water below.
In the last episode talking about the firmament, we mentioned that it's the barrier between the waters above and the waters below. We could also say it's the barrier that lies between God's highest heaven, God's throne room, where God is enthroned, and the earthly realm beneath. That barrier shows up in a number of places in the Bible. When the elders, Aaron and Moses, feast on Mount Sinai, for example, they look up at the Lord and they look up through a pavement that looks like sapphire, and up above the pavement they see the Lord. And the Lord is visible to them as they eat and drink in His presence. He doesn't stretch out His hand against them, and they have a meal in the presence of the Lord, but a meal with a barrier between them. Ezekiel sees a similar barrier when he sees the glory of the Lord appear by the river Kibar when he's in exile. He also sees this barrier between this firmament that is above the figure that he sees in the midst of the glory cloud. That barrier is not a permanent feature of creation. This, I think, is one of the reasons why there's no pronouncement that the second day is good. We think that after everything God does, he pronounces it good. Creates light, separates light and darkness, that's good. He separates the waters and the land and makes the plants grow from the land, he says that's good. He puts the stars, sun, and moon in the heavens, and he says that's good. That's true of every day except the second day. There's no pronouncement that it's good. And I think one of the reasons for that is because that barrier that separates the throne room of God and the lower realm of man is not permanent. That's going to be shattered. We actually see a picture of this shattering in the book of Revelation. In some places in the Bible, that firmament, which looks like a solid dome over the earth, is pictured as an ice dome. Hail is a symbol of the shattering of that firmament, the shattering of that barrier. It can be shattered from God's side when God comes in wrath against his enemies or against unfaithful Israel. He breaks through the firmament and he comes with a storm of fire, lightning, and hail. It's hail because he's breaking that ice dome from above. And that's what we see in the book of Revelation. We see several times where hailstorms appear, especially at the end of chapter 16 in Revelation, where there's a hailstorm with hailstones that are 100 pounds each. And the reason for that is because the whole story of Revelation is about the throne of God, which begins above the firmament with the sea of glass, the firmament sea, the heavenly waters in front of the throne. From that position when John first sees the throne to the position at the end of the book where God's throne has come through the firmament, shattered the ice dome, and come down to dwell on the earth. And that's the final condition of creation. When that barrier between God and man is gone, the veil is lifted.
Hello, it's me. You know, indoctrination started while we were still naive, programming our beliefs. And that inertia is the reason we don't feel the earth spinning. Hello, can you hear me? Did you ever stop to question the confession of gravity as a theory? Funny thing, force alone can be explained with buoyancy and density. The sun is closer than what they've told us, not 90 million miles away. Hello from the inside, I'm here to tell you not to lie. And there never was a space probe, and those planets you've left so wandering stars. Operation Fishbowl. There never was a South Pole. We're surrounded by walls of ice, and we clearly live inside of a glass door. Hello, how are you? Did you get a chance to join Flight Earth and Globe discussion group to discover all the truth? How the sun, the moon, the stars are all revolving around you. There's no more secret. The earth is stationary